Hey everyone, it's Hope Yoder. I've got some stay-at-home quilt with me tips for you. There's two quilt hacks that I use every time I make a quilt and I can't wait to share it with you. But first let me show you my nephew, Nathan. He's in the white shirt, surrounded by his family, and my mother-in-law. We all had a hand at making this beautiful XL twin quilt, hoping he gets to go back to college for his second year this fall. So here's Nathan, and he has bragging rights now because we had him quilt some of this. This is his mom, and she was in love with quilting. First time ever she used to frame. And there's the dad. This is a family affair. Like, how many Yoders does it take to make a quilt? There's his sister. And first thing I want to show you is we bought about 5.5 yards of fabric and we cut it 96 inches long, and we made the quilt by just making three simple seams using a 1/4 inch and pressing the seams open. But an easier tip would be to recycle a sheet or quilt and use that for the top. Here's my husband, first time ever, Marvelous Marv has quilted. Now notice that good quality thread that we're going to use. There's my mother-in-law. She's an experienced quilter, but it was her very first time on a quilting frame and she loves it. Here's another tip. Go ahead and just place your scissors down in the handle slot so you have them at hand. Here's my daughter Hannah, and I want to point out these large cones. It's a great tip to buy large cones of quilting thread, and we're using Quilter Select thread. Now you'll see Hannah, and then there again, my sister-in-law kind of jumped in, and Hannah was so excited. I had to share with you what she said.
Oh, we're using Quilter Select thread.
She couldn't stop laughing. She had such a great time. Here's my daughter Olivia, who was also down on vacation, recently married. And while they were quilting, we were binding or piecing together binding. So this is what the finished quilt binding looks like. And a couple tips for you. Now you want to use a good quality thread to sew the binding on. And here you're going to sew all the way down to the edge, and then I backstitch, trim the thread, and then I'm going to flip the binding up, making a 45-degree angle, and then I'm going to flip the fabric back down. And I don't use pins. I love to use Wonder Clips. So hack number one would be using Wonder Clips. So I've pinned there, and then I'm going to continue to sew the binding all the way around, and just use your favorite method to join the binding. On our Embellish YouTube channel, I made a video showing you how to end the binding. Well, now when that's done, we're ready for the next step, and we're going to make this binding look really good with no pins. And the secret hack number two is Quilter Select Fabric Glue Stick. You guys, I do this. I glue on either side of each corner, and then I'm going to fold the binding over, and I'm going to finger press it by just kind of squeezing a little bit like you see here. I'm going to do that on both sides, and what happens is the glue will then adhere to the binding. I'm going to add two Wonder Clips under on top of the glue, and now I've got to deal with that miter. You can stick a sharp little pin in there to form the miter and use some more glue in the corner, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to fold it over, hold it, and squeeze it with your fingers, and then add another Wonder Clip. Now I do this to all four corners before I start to sew. So I've got all four corners have three Wonder Clips, one in the middle of the miter and two or one on each side. And another tip is to have a great pair of scissors. I love these Embellish applique scissors for taming those threads that tend to stick out when you're quilting. I just use Wonder Clips. I made quite a mess, and here's another addition to our family, my little automatic robotic vacuum. You can see the Wonder Clips all the way around, and Nathan loved his quilt. And we hope that you have enjoyed these tips, quilting hacks by Hope Yoder.